Okay, what's up, everybody? My name's V, and I am so excited because the SWV and Escape show started yesterday. I've been waiting for this show to start for months. I love both of the groups, and I was like really excited to see this collaboration because um, you remember SWV had a show with Salt and Pepper, and that show was really good. And then Escape had the show a few years ago, and both of them were really good. And I love both groups, so both of them had like so much drama, and so I knew that when they collaborated for this show, I was like, oh, okay, I definitely want to review them. And of course, I love Candy and everything. So I wanted to. I think I'm gonna review every episode. Um, so I took a whole bunch of notes. Right here. So I just want to kind of like talk about the show and recap it. And then you guys can leave comments. Let me know what you guys think. If you enjoyed the show, what you think about the recap, and if you enjoy the recap, I think that this will be something that I do every week for each episode. So I'm excited. So stay tuned. The episode starts. They kind of recap the history between both groups. I think they were saying that in 1991, SWV started, and then in 1992, that Xscape started. So first of all, I did not know that SWV sold 30 million records. I'm like, damn, okay. And is it me? Is it me, or is Coco hilarious? Like, Coco always, even when she was on the Salt and Pepper show, she always had like a little attitude. But it's like, I like her, but it's like you don't want to like her, but you like her at the same time. She has this like, bitch, I know I can sing. I can out-sing you, and so like I'm better than you. So Coco has always been so hilarious to me. And then of course, I think that Taj is so cute. She's like the peacemaker, and you kind of, I'll talk about that later in the recap, but you can just tell that she's like the person that brings the peace in between her group as well as with, Xscape, and when they get to a later part when they're fussing and fighting. But yeah, they just kind of they did a show in Ontario, and they also talked about when they did their verses, which I completely forgot about that. But that's kind of what prompted all of this. They did the verses, and then when they did the verse, it was like, oh, okay, we got some really good reception. Let's like collaborate, somehow. So I thought that was really interesting. When they talked about their history, how many records they sold, like, SWVs from New York, the Bronx, and Brooklyn, and then, we know Xscapes, they're all from Atlanta. So they kind of went through the history of each of the groups, which was kind of cool to see. Okay, so then after we see them go through the history of like how each of the groups were formed and, the background information, I think it's so cute. I've always loved Tiny and Candy's relationship. Like, you can tell, they've done songwriting together, that they're very close, like outside of, the shows. Tiny had her shows on VH1, and then Candy, obviously, the Housewives. But I've always like really loved their dynamics. I've loved their interaction with each other. It seems like their families are close. It seems like, Todd and Tip are kind of close. So I've always loved to see that. But it's really interesting to see Tamika and Candy are really close, which is the contrast is interesting because, like, from the Housewives, Candy's like, she's a little more laid back. She kind of seems like the person that takes a while to warm up to you. But Tamika is like the fun time girl. She's the girl that, kind of like gets it started. She's the girl that you will want to go out with and get some drinks and like have a good time. But it's funny to see that contrast of personality. And it seems like she and Candy get along really well. So I thought that was cool. So it's nice to kind of see that, to see those dynamics. And then you kind of see Candy and Tiny and Tamika, they get together and they're talking about, okay, we kind of had a little bit of a rift at a previous show where, I mean, is it me, or does it seem like that little argument was like stupid? For whatever reason, however it happened, Tamika and Candy, who seem like they always room together when they're on tour and stuff, they had their own dressing room, and then they somehow got locked out. But they got locked out, and then somehow Tiny and Tasha, which I'm not feeling Tasha, but we'll talk about that in a second. But Tiny and Tasha, who seem like they always room together, somehow they weren't locked out, and then Candy and Tamika were for an hour, and then Tasha walks by and sees them locked out or whatever. Which, girl, what? Like you see them locked out, and you weren't like in a hurry to assist them to get in the room or help them get dressed, or for whatever reason she walked by them. So this is what prompted the beef, which kind of sounds silly to me, but whatever. That's neither here nor there. So they get into it, I guess, and then somehow there's some text messages that are exchanged. I guess there's a group chat, which, you know, the group chats always get you in trouble, but there's a group text that's exchanged where they're all 5 on there, and I guess Tasha told Tamika to kiss her ass, and then Tamika said, well, if you had an ass to kiss. I mean, if you're gonna tell somebody to kiss your ass, I'm saying, like, you can't really get mad at the response. You know what I'm saying? Like, you said kiss my ass, I said, bitch, if you had an ass to kiss, like, can you really get mad because you were the one who like kicked it off? Like, I'm sure that we, the audience, we're probably missing some stuff in between there. I'm certain of it, because this whole text exchange, the reasoning behind the beef sounds stupid, which we will find out later was really the precursor to all this. But again, if I tell someone to kiss my ass and then someone responds like that, you really can't get mad. So then Tasha is upset because she's like, oh, okay, this is body shaming. It's like, girl, I mean, look, you're in Atlanta. If you're not happy with your body, go do something about it. Everybody else is doing it. Like, it's, you know, everybody else in your group, except maybe Candy, has their butt done. Some of them have gone too far with it, but that's neither here nor there. But anyway, if you're not happy, go do something about it. I mean, that should not have set you off to have like World War III. But again, we'll later find out that there's some other reasoning behind that. But yeah, it just seems like Xscape, they just can never get it right. They're always beefing. And it's so sad because they have classics that we love, and unfortunately, I mean, you know, it seems like they get it together, but they put band-aids on the problem, but they never fully resolve it. So that's really sad. But anyway, this whole situation that happened when they were on tour, and this group text thing is so silly. It's so silly. We get to Tasha, and they're in a scene with Tasha and her husband and then her son, which, you know, was nice. I don't think I knew she had a son. I don't remember. I'm sure they showed him on the last season, the season Xscape had, but I don't remember. But anyway, they have her, and they're talking about her they're interacting with her son and Rocky. Is it me? Or is Rocky shady? Like, it's something so shady about him, even in the last season. And then he used to, you know, be in R. Kelly's crew. Shady. That's all we need to know. Like, you know, there's been rumblings and rumors that, like, for real, like, he's the reason behind all the issues with Xscape, aside from the fact that Tasha thinks she's like Beyonce. And Tasha, we love Xscape, but we're not here for your solo career. I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know if you know that, but we're not here for it. We love y'all as a unit. We definitely are not checking for your solo career. I'm just saying. Anyway, so yeah, Rocky, I never liked him. And, you know, then all of this stuff recently in the news with him and I get whatever that girl was who was supposedly pregnant. I just never could quite put my finger on it. But the fact that he was in R. Kelly's crew, that tells us all we need to know. Like, he is no good. And I see why the rest of the group doesn't want anything to do with him. They don't want him to be the manager because he's shady. I knew I wasn't tripping. I knew that I was onto something. But anyway, so we see them, her son, interacting. She's kind of talking about the issues with the group, whatever, Tasha. Like, like I'm not even in the group, so I know y'all are exhausted because I'm exhausted of this already. Just because the issues that you guys are having it just seems so silly, but I mean, I guess that's what makes the good drama. But I'm over it, like, and I'm over your husband, and I'm just over it. So yeah. So Tasha is talking to her husband about her reservations of the group, which it's really the deep seated issues that she's having, and her reservations are coming from the issues that she's having with her sister. But Tasha, you're starting to look like the problem child. You had all this stuff that you had issues with Candy from in the past, and like, Candy is so not problematic. And I'm not even trying to be biased because I do love Candy, but like, she just minds her business, and I believe her. I believe all the things that she says. So you having issues with Candy, and then like, and I understand, like, back in the day, Tasha, you were like the lead singer. Although when we go back and look at stuff, Candy sung lead a lot too. So, but anyway, you were like the Beyonce of the group or whatever. And that's fine. But, you know, things have changed. Your group has evolved. People have had, you know, songwriting careers outside of the group, and people have blown up. And to be honest, everybody's bigger than you. Not in size, because you're the biggest one in size, but everybody's bigger than you as far as status. Like, Tiny has done her thing. Even Tamika, she was been on Braxton Family Values and stuff, like, and then Candy's the Beyonce of the group right now. So Tasha, whatever issues you are having within yourself, you need to kind of like let it go, because again, I don't know how many times we need to reiterate this. We are not checking for you as a solo artist. We are not. We don't want it. We love the group. Xscape is a phenomenal classic group. No one can take that from y'all, but we are definitely not checking for you solo. And I need you to like hear that over and over. I don't want to hear anything that you're doing solo. But anyway, you are starting to look like the Cancer of the group. You're always having issues. You're always threatening to go solo. Now you're beefing with your sister. And again, we'll talk about that in a minute, the crux of why you're beefing with her. But girl, I mean, you seem very, very difficult. And then on top of that, in addition to you being difficult, your husband is like shady. I know they're tired of you. They are like tired. They're sick and tired. You're lucky that we love y'all as a group, because if we didn't, like, you are making this hard for everybody. Like, just get in, sit down, and hush. That's it. Okay, so then, you know, there are a few scenes after that where, like, you know, we see Candy talking with Todd, and then, you know, we see Tiny with her family, you know, just kind of brushing us up, I guess, on where everybody is at and what's going on in their lives. And then we get to the brunch, which I love Taj. I've loved her. I love her relationship with her husband. She's always so sweet and just so even keel, and like the person who is like reasonable in all situations. And I thought it was cute to see that she has a really good relationship with Candy and Tiny. And you know, they're all like in that Atlanta area, so I'm sure they're all familiar with each other. But she coordinates a brunch for all of them to kind of talk about, okay, so how are we going to do this? Are we going to get together and arrange like a tour? Like, what are the logistics of the tour? What are we going to be doing on the tour? And so, you know, everybody starts to arrive. People are trickling in. Lily is like the last. I love Lily because Lily is hilarious, by the way. She's the last person to get there. And then, you know, they all sit down for brunch, and they're all like, okay, you know, well, what is your idea of what the tour will look like? What do you want? So, you know, they're kind of going around and talking about what they envision for the tour. So then it pans to Taj, and she's just looking at Tasha, and Tasha just over there with the stink face. And then Tasha's like, okay, well, what's wrong, Tasha? She's, I don't think it's gonna work. And it's like, you are like heartburn. You're so, I don't even know. I'm again, this is the first episode and I am exhausted of Tasha. And so she's just like, well, we have internal things that we need to work through within the group. And so, SWV, they feel like, okay, we've been there, we've done that, because they had a lot of drama as well. And they kind of had growing pains and they had to kind of overcome some of the things that Xscape is going through right now. So, Lily, Coco, all of them, they're like, look, put that stuff to the side, have your business mind and get to the bag, get to the money. Let's all focus on what we're here to do. And Coco even said, we're beefing all the time, but when we get on stage, we let all that stuff go. And I don't think that Xscape has been able to master that. As a collective, I think some people in the group want to do that, but I think that as a collective, they are unable to put aside these different issues and just focus and be professional. And so SWV is kind of like talking to them and saying, look, just let it go so that we can make money. And again, Tasha's just like, well, I'm not sold on it. And I don't know. And it's just like, so they're all like, everyone's trying to be positive, even Coco, because Coco be stink, but I like Coco's stinkness. But she was even like, girl, you're doing the most. So everybody was just, kind of talking to Tasha and like, and Tiny's like, look, we'll get it together. And then, Tasha's like, well, I don't know. And I'm just, again, problem child, always the issue, and I feel like they really do. They need to really talk to her and threaten her and be like, look, what were you doing before we got back together? Because nobody was checking for you. So, you really need to get it together or else you're out. And that's obviously, we know they started doing shows without her, but we don't but we're not checking for the other three by themselves either. We want the four of them. We really do, unfortunately, because we don't want to see the group without Tasha either, because she does bring an important element to the group. So yeah, we want the four of them and they need each other. And I think they all need to realize that. And I think everyone kind of realizes that except Tasha, unfortunately. So, okay, so then SWV, they go to Johannesburg, South Africa, which is nice. We find out they got offered a really, really good gig for a really rich African man who paid them, 6 figures. So it's nice to see that they're still doing shows. People still want to see both groups, and SWV realizes that, and they are going with it. They said they perform 50 to 100 times a year. So it's good. I'm really happy to see, like, after the last show that they're still performing and that, so many people still want to see them. So that's really nice. Okay, so then we get to the last scene of the show where Tamika and Tasha go to their mom's house, Mama G, and Mama G has heard about all of the stuff that's been going on between the two of them, and Mama G is like, look, let me get my daughters together so that they can, work through it and fix it. But on the way to driving to Mama G's house, Tamika, is basically like, well, I don't know what my mom's gonna really be able to do to help, because she always takes Tasha's side. Tasha is her favorite. And that's really sad when, I have a daughter, I have one kid, and I have friends that have more than one kid and family members, and they all kind of have said like, I wouldn't tell the other kids, but I do have a favorite. And I guess naturally you probably do have a favorite kid, but I think as a parent, it's really important that you don't allow that to show, and that you don't show favoritism, to one kid over the other. I think it's super important that you do that. And that's very, very unfortunate that however they grew up, that Tamika felt that, in her relationship with her mom. It's very unfortunate. I'm sure that also plays a part in why Tasha thinks she's so much better than everybody. She has this air about her that I sing better than you, you need me, I can go off and do whatever I need to do without you. And a lot of that probably comes from the way that her mom has put her on a pedestal over her other sibling. So that's really, really sad. And you can, you can tell that Tamika has apprehension about going over there. And she's just like, look, I don't know how this is going to go because my mom always takes Tasha's side. And so, they get there, they start talking about the problems. She's like, well, mom, this is what happened. This is the text. And, I was locked out of my room and then I text this and she texts that. And her mom whispers to Tasha, she's jealous. And I'm just like, really? Why would you say that? So it's not only did Tamika say that that's what's happening, it's evident you're showing in the show that you do have favoritism from Tasha over Tamika, and that Tamika wasn't crazy. And she said that en route to your house. So that was disheartening to see, and so they're kind of going back and forth. It's not really getting anywhere. Tasha is like, well, you're my sister, you're my family. And Tamika's kind of like, well, you need to act like it, whatever. And then Tamika drops a bomb and she says, well, you stole $30,000 or whatever. And so you could tell like they weren't expecting that, and you could just feel like the cringiness in the scene. And you could kind of see like Tasha's like, like she didn't really know what to say. And she's kind of like, I did not. And she's, Tamika basically is saying that, there's a situation that took place where there were royalties that were owed to her that shady ass Rocky and her took, and that she never saw. And they took it and they cashed it, and it was in upwards of $30,000 or more. And so immediately when she says that, they get up, they get to fussing back and forth. And Mama G's like, turn the cameras off and get out. And it's like, it's like, well, and she's like, well, Mama, you know she stole $30,000. So that is really what the issue is. When you're like already irritated with someone and they keep poking at you, and then the littlest thing happens and then there's a blow up. That text message exchange was just the icing on the cake to their issues. They're having issues because they're having financial, a financial dispute. And allegedly, Tasha owes her sister money, and her shady husband allegedly is probably behind it. So I knew it when I started watching the episode. I was like, man, this seems so minuscule, so stupid. Why are they fighting over this text? And I knew that there was more to it, and that's what it is. Money will bust up a relationship. And so we find out that Tasha and her husband allegedly have been stealing money and that they owe her $30,000. So, it's gonna, and then the show just kind of abruptly ends. Mama G was like, get out. So, the show kind of goes off, but it's going to be interesting to see how this season is. I'm excited about it. I think I can't wait to see, the dispute that SWV has with Xscape about who goes first and who goes second. And I'll give my opinion on, that, later. But I'm excited. I think it's going to be a really, really good season. And I'm excited to see the evolution of both groups from the 90s to today. And I want to see them both be successful, so that I hope that they have a great tour. The end result, well, it kind of played out in the blog, so we kind of know what's about to happen. But I hope that they can get it together, because I do think, we already know SWV is amazing. Both of them are amazing, but I think that Xscape can be great if they stick together and work and sort through their issues. All right, y'all. So that is my review for SWV and Xscape's new show on Bravo. I am excited to be reviewing this every week. And so stay tuned. I have some other stuff coming down the pipe, but I hope you enjoyed this review, and I'll see you guys next week for episode 2. Bye.